I thought this would be a really great opportunity to check in with my good friend Toni Reilly, who's recognised as Australia's renowned regression therapist. And yeah, it's been such a pleasure and an honour to know you, to meet you, and to keep in touch with you over the years, Toni. I think we've known each other for about 10 years now, and it's been so great just following your journey, seeing how it's unfolded, and seeing everything coming together for you in terms of, the regression therapy, the cards, the book, and now the podcast. Before we dig into this topic today, would you like to be able to just give a little bit of a background about yourself and how you found yourself getting into regression therapy? And just while we're getting some response from Toni, just wondering how many of you out there have yeah, I wish you could talk too. We'll have to tweak this and try and fine tune this for another date as well, but happy to keep going with this anyway, since we've got everyone here and I've got you here. And yeah, so I might just describe some of my background with how Toni and I met and how we crossed paths. And although we have quite a bit of a different approach to the way that we work with past lives, I find that our paths are very much similar in the way that they do revisit past lives, they do look for healing elements, and the very fact that they do have an impact on the people who are experiencing them. And when we consider the concept of past lives, we might immediately think of time as a linear kind of stream, and there's backward and there's forward from one point to another. I guess you could look at it in the sense that time itself is non-linear in a concurrent, all-surrounding type of stream of existence or consciousness, you could say. So it's like everything's happening at the same time, but because our soul is found in all these different eras and timelines and parts of where we've been, who we've been, what we've been, it makes it a very unique kind of way to think about living and the cycles that we go through. And some of my earliest memories about the concept of past lives probably come from like Chinese like Buddhist stories about like people who reincarnated, or people who were reborn in different bodies and different times and different places, and then being able to check in and being able to join the dots. And one of the other things I was thinking about today was like an old Paul Jennings story, children's author, famous children's author of the 90s, who wrote a story about hypnosis, and when the subject was getting out of hypnosis, they'd be regressed back to take on the persona of that past life. Now, that's not entirely accurate, but it did open my mind a little bit as an 8-year-old back then. Okay, so Toni says, my background is having worked with past life recall as therapy for the last 2 decades as a process to make now better. That's fantastic, Toni. And, just listening to your recent podcast about, the therapeutic benefits and the breakthroughs that people have had, and more recently you podcasted with your daughter Coco about her experience of the regression, and you made some really good connections with her in terms of being able to trace the different patterns that occurred throughout her journey, and you were able to look at the similarities or the themes that came up. I found that really fascinating, and I found it really wonderful and inspiring that you were able to make that kind of connection with your daughter, and you were able to help her or guide her to process recurring themes, as well as the idea or the concept that there were these patterns occurring around responsibility. So from my understanding and from my experience, when we engage with revisiting and viewing past lives and experiencing them for ourselves or helping clients and people, my understanding and experience is that there are usually certain themes that we need to work through in order to to help us to kind of move on and to move forward. And Toni says, my Coco, yes, we went deep to show what came up to help verify what comes up. And if you have a listen of the Life Map podcast, episode 2, where Toni talks about and shares her experience, and Coco shares her experience of regression itself, it's a really inspiring story about Coco and the 3 lives that she's been through as part of her regression, and it's great to see the kinds of connections that you make, not just as a parent, but also as from a therapeutic approach as well. And Toni says, oh, that makes me teary. Her regression was very emotional, and yes, it ultimately helped her feel less responsible for me and others whom she ought not really feel that responsible for. Yeah. And Toni, please do feel free to post the link in here later on. I'll be sure to reshare it and to repost it. And yeah, there are some links on Toni's Facebook page, Karen. I'll make sure I get those out to you at the end of this. And some of the questions, I thought I might jump into some of the questions that came up for me around this topic this week. And Toni, I hope you can shed some insight on these questions as well. This morning I had a question about the familiarity of places and people and situations. I was asked the question about this person who has moved around a lot, and prior to actually moving and living in these places, the question asked was that if I feel familiarity with these places, is there the likelihood that I would have had past life connections with these places in the past? And one of the things about experiencing your past lives and experiencing your past life memories is that everything happens on an energetic level. So when we think about past lives and the places we've been or the people we've been in touch with or the situations that we're involved with. Yes, there are things that happen on a physical level, and then on another sense, you feel it so deeply in the cells of your body or the cells of your being that it's almost like it shakes you to the very core of your being. So it's like when you experience these symptoms or signs in your body, it's probably very likely that you did experience or you have experienced or you're going through some and processing some memories that have taken place on a soul level. Thanks, Karen. Another question that came up for us this week, and I'm hoping we can shed some light on this from your angle as well, Toni, is that have you had much experience with people who have incarnated or have had past lives as different people, different beings, different races? By beings, we refer to, like animals or off-world beings, like star beings, other planets. Are you able to share some insights into what your experience of that is, Toni? And I'll just get back to Toni's answer around the familiarity with places, and she says, I do feel that you have been before in human capacity when the draw is so strong or the familiarity is instant, even when it is aversion rather than comfort with a person or place. And to our second question, Toni says, yes, they go to other schools other than Earth. So when you think about it, with such an expansive world out there that is pretty much infinite, there are so many planets, galaxies, universes. It's almost like a multiverse out there, and there are so many different worlds out there, not just Earth, as many of us were probably taught in some aspect or some respect. And when we consider this, there is the likelihood that we've been to so many different places before, so many, maybe even so many experiences buried deep down. There could be many that are occurring right now as you speak on a concurrent level. And I definitely think it's very valid to think and to feel and to know on some level that you have been to some different places before as different beings, some human and maybe some not so human. And Toni says, I've not seen animal incarnations, but they certainly do go to other more energetic places as well. They seem to be much more energetic, less harsh than Earth. Okay, thank you, Toni. All right, and another question I was asked this week was about incarnating as different races of people. How is it that when we incarnate and take on different forms, or take on different identities as people, how is it that we sometimes identify so strongly with some of those like cultural, almost encoded patterns that they hold? So for example, like certain races of people have experienced things and they've experienced certain things in their history, and it almost feels like deep down they still hold on to a lot of these memories. So the question that I was asked was, how is it that we still incarnate with some of these qualities and traits that seem so commonly held onto, like for example, like racism or prejudice or certain cultural fears. And just while we're waiting for Toni to reply to that question about incarnating as different races and some of their collective stuff that they bring along, I'll just read out the next answer that she brought for us. It says, I found that people who go there are surprised because they are everyday people, but they don't question it because it is validated for them when they feel what it is like in those other places. Thank you. So, from my understanding of that question that I just asked, I feel like when we think about the different patterns and the things that we sort of embody as people, it's almost like these are the stories that keep getting told and passed down through the generations. And as we grow up and experience life as different people, different genders, different races, different cultures, it's like there are still these certain ways of thinking and patterns of behavior and ways of upbringing, I guess you could say, that that kind of shape or mold the characteristics of that way of thinking. I feel like when we think about the way that different cultures present in life, it's almost like they keep passing on this same story, and it's like it just becomes a commonly held belief by a certain group of people. I'll just read out Toni's interpretation of that. She says, if I have understood the question, I think people come back to experience each side of the circumstance. So as a perpetrator, as a victim, as an activist. Fantastic. That's another way you can think of it. Just expanding on that, it's almost like when we think about the different roles that we take on, prior to this lifetime, we kind of take a look at all the different variables and things that we can potentially learn. So it's like we arrange for certain things to be learnt through different experiences. So reflecting on Toni's answer, we organise or we arrange to come back as certain races of people or certain genders, or have certain conditions that we want to live through so that we can experience all different angles. It's kind of like thinking of our lives as being like a jewel that is crafted. You know, the soul is continually learning and growing and shedding layers, and when it comes down to it, it's almost like we're here to learn different things, and we're here to grow and learn in a very balanced, dynamic kind of way. Toni says, ultimately we came to experience the emotion behind the situation. So oppression is one thing, but for some cultures it can be incredible. The simplicity of not having much reduces competition and envy, for example. Wow, that's a very deep and profound answer. Thank you, Toni. Now, in the audience who are watching today, please feel free to type any of your questions as they emerge, and we'll see if we can see what kind of angle we can take on those as well. And hopefully by next time we'll smooth out the tech issues so that we can we can have a split screen co-facilitated conversation that I was hoping for. I did it last week in a group, so could be around different settings and different functions and all that. Another question that I was asked, and it's one that I get asked really commonly, is about, when you meet people in your life and you feel an almost instant connection or a pull to them, like when you meet someone and it really feels like you haven't seen them for a really long time, even though you just met them. It could be in the capacity of like a work colleague or a friend, or it could be in the capacity of feeling like a really warm sense of bliss going through your body, and it brings up that concept of love at first sight. And Toni, I know we spoke about this on an old radio show of yours, maybe about 8 years ago. And yeah, love at first sight, and finding connections with soulmates. That's a really fascinating topic that comes up a lot in this work and in this field and in this area. And Toni, I just thought I'd like to ask you, what kind of experiences have you had that you might be able to share with us and enlighten us on in terms of love at first sight? And I know it's a very romanticized concept, but it's also a very beautiful one when you think about the journey that our souls take and the way that we sort of have this recognition of someone that you haven't seen or felt at a vibrational level for so long. It's like you meet someone and you see them for the first time, and just the whole multi-sensory experience is really, really overwhelming, and it's just so beautiful. Yes, we did speak about it 8 years ago, your love at first sight story. The synchronicity is extraordinary. Thanks, Toni. While I'm here, I might just share a little bit about that so you can kind of put into perspective what I'm talking about here in love at first sight. So the story that I shared with Toni on her radio show was a love at first sight story about how my wife and I met. Now, we both met in Hawaii back in 2011. We were both attending a conference in Hawaii, and I was from Sydney and she was from Okinawa in Japan. And it, thinking about it, it could have been the least likely place to meet someone in a very extraordinary, life-changing, life-bending kind of way. So we were both attending the Angel Therapy conference back in 2011, and we were both there as participants, and we met each other on the day before the course, and it's as soon as I met her, I could see a 5-pointed star on her forehead, like a pink 5-pointed star, and I just felt through my whole entire body this really deep sense of warmth and peace, and it's like I couldn't stop thinking about her from the moment I met her. And like following on from there, like I kept dreaming about her. It was only a 5-day course, but it was like I just kept bumping into her everywhere I went, and the things that I wanted to say would be the things that she said like it's almost like she pulled the words out of my mouth kind of feeling. And it's almost, when it came time to, for both of us to go home, it felt like a really long lost person in my life was leaving, and I wanted, and I knew, and I had felt like I had to do everything in my power to kind of chase her to her end of the earth. And one thing after another, there were just all these synchronicities that made it so possible to move overseas, to get married and raise a family, and to kind of keep delving into these topics and these areas. And it's something that I definitely want to expand a bit more on. In the coming weeks, months, years, I'm going to be writing more about this topic, sharing more about my insights around this topic, as I feel like it's got a lot of potential and opportunity for people to learn how to follow their guidance, and to live and lead life in a very empowering and enriching kind of way. And it's like we can be so intuitive, and we were born and we were wired for this sort of thing. And my dream with being able to explore past lives and help people with this is to be able to show them that there's so much more than what we have physically here. And Toni says, here's one tip for if it is love at first sight. It doesn't have to be immediate that you think that is my person, but there is an instant recognition and an irresistible compulsion to continue. The most important aspect is that it is reciprocated. Absolutely, Toni. And I also feel like with this unavoidable, undeniable connection, there can be that sense of losing control, or putting aside everything to pursue this. And in another sense, we do have some degree of choice in it, and it's almost like we step out of the way of our mind and we really just go into the feelings that are within our body and our heart and our mind and our soul. It's almost like when we consider the ways that this takes place, it's like that deep sense of knowing, so that you just follow through with it on a multi-dimensional kind of level. Just going to take a quick breather there. Yeah, I'm so glad that many of you can relate to the whole life-changing experience and the concept of that love between soulmates and soul groups and soul friends. And Toni says, I do believe everything is put aside to follow the compulsion to make it happen. Absolutely. And if any of you have any love at first sight stories to share, I'd be so truly happy to hear them and to hear about how they've changed your lives. And I think being able to hear of others' stories in this area is a really supportive and inspiring way to build up that, to build up that faith and that recognition that, yes, this thing does take place. There is this recognition between souls. There is this way that we can experience life beyond the context or beyond the limits of what currently exists around us, within us. And it's like we can be in a whole other kind of way. And just to finish up and start to close off with some of this, Toni, I thought I might get you to share your insights, and I'll share my insights on it. Sometimes when you look at people, you might instantly see like a flash, or like a flash up, or an image, or just get a feel like, oh, this person belongs to this soul group, or oh, this person looks like they have traits of, say, this particular animal, or this person feels quite angelic, or this person feels quite elemental in their experience. Are you able to share if you feel what you feel or what you think around that? Like, do people carry a presence around them that people can intuitively feel and pick up on, as in like their path or their soul's journey, or anything around that? Like sometimes when I meet people and I see them, I look at them and I feel like, oh yeah, they've got a very elemental energy around them, or they've got a really angelic kind of energy around them. Do you kind of pick up on that too? Okay, and just reading through some of these stories that we're showing. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Karen. Oh, thanks for sharing, Karen and Michelle. And when we do think about love at first sight, it is pretty important to consider that, yes, sometimes these kind of connections, are short term, and some are long term. And I think that just goes back to that sense, or that concept, that people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And it's like when you connect and engage in these kind of relationships or these connections, it feels very enriching and very empowering at the time, and it feels like it allows you to gain a better understanding of yourself. So it's like all these different connections help you to form a better picture of who you are in the past, present, and the future in a concurrent, limitless time kind of sense. And Toni says to our question, I can feel their energy almost instantly, just like you are saying, Nathan. Fantastic, great. And what I love about being able to delve into this topic of past lives is that many of us are able to express ourselves in so many different ways, and many of us have so many gifts and talents that we can rediscover from tuning in and connecting with our past lives. It's almost like say if our brain or our body has all these different lights or circuits that are currently wired when we're born, and it's like being able to revisit a past life, being able to experience one, can help to switch on or activate certain other parts of this brain, or this body, or this mind of yours. It's almost like your channel becomes more open, and you can, now that you have this awareness of what's happened before, or what's happened in another time and place, it's like you're able to open yourself up more to other gifts and other ways of expressing and being. And I think that's one of the most empowering and inspiring kinds of things that takes place as we experience regression and past life review of some sort. Toni, as a last question, what is the best part about what you do in your work as a regression therapist? And Toni says, people who are angelic, soft, or powerful exude it. It is impossible to hide even if they are not aware of it yet. I love energy. I feel like when we trust it, life is just better. Absolutely agree with you. And, you know, energy and love and this creative life force is who we are. So it's like the more we engage with it, the more we connect with it, the more that we surrender to it, it's like the more that our lives open up in a very beautiful, loving and empowering way. The more that we can open up to this, the more that we are simply in allowance and trust and flow. So it's like the more that we connect with this, the better equipped we are to experience life at maximum capacity for love, joy, creativity, abundance, prosperity, anything your soul really wants, really. Really loving the conversations happening in this thread, and yeah, I'm looking forward to really connecting more and making a bit more of a presence here on live. And yeah, oh, Robin, hi Robin. Hi Nathan and Toni. I was blessed 39 years ago to experience love at first sight at 16 years old. We celebrate our 32nd wedding anniversary this year. It is interesting to look back at the 16-year-old me and how the love at first sight story unfolded. Oh, that's so beautiful, Robin. I'd really love to hear more about your story one day if you know, you have the time or you've got the means to write and share your story. I'd really be honoured to read it. Thank you. And Toni says, the best part is seeing people who lack confidence or have an ailment feel lighter, better, and less fearful. It is truly a blessing to have people feel they can open up and trust. Oh, that's so beautiful. So, so beautiful. All right, I think we might start to wrap up here, but it's been such an honour and a pleasure to connect with you all in this way today. And yeah, I'm going to try to do this as regularly as I can. If you've got any questions or topics you'd like me to delve into and, you know, gather a bit of insight around, please do send me a message and let me know. I'm pretty open to exploring, discussing, sharing, and yeah, I think I've had a lot of fun connecting in this way and engaging with you all. Have a beautiful weekend, everyone. Namaste. Thanks, Toni.